First and foremost, a gigantic aloha and welcome to the show. We really appreciate you doing this for us.
My pleasure.
And you're part of a series we've been doing off the road. We're connecting remotely with artists around the world. Where are you right now, Martin?
I'm about 7 miles outside of Plymouth in Devon, UK. So in the very bottom right-hand corner of the UK, very near the ocean, um, very similar to where you are, but nothing like it at all.
Yeah, right, I was going to say.
Snowing, there's snow flurries, it's freezing cold, but it's good. It's a beautiful part of the world in the summer.
There you go.
I know that you have summer all year, but
Yeah, no, we're lucky. We do have some decent weather in the situation here. And from reading up on your adventures over the last year or so, it seems that you were on the road in South America when the pandemic
mm,
actually hit. Is that accurate?
yeah, it was starting. It was building impetus, but when we left, but there were no restrictions, and it was very early days.
Take us back to how it all sort of unfolded, where you were.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, we flew out to South America. I even remember having a slight cough and worrying that they might misinterpret. So I went to my doctor, and I mean there was no COVID test in February last year, but we went ahead. We in fact South America they had in place health security that was far more advanced than Europe was. They had temperature testing. You had to fill out form paperwork. It's very, very thorough. So, but we felt safe, and the gigs were amazing, full capacity, beautiful weather, lovely people, and then it started slowly to become a problem worldwide. Not in South America yet, but very low impact there, and literally we played Brazil, we played Argentina, we played the very last show in Argentina before they closed the country down. Then we flew to Chile. Again, we did the last gig they allowed in Chile before they shut everything down. And at which point we should have gone to Peru and Mexico. And we just said, we have to go home. Otherwise, we'd be stuck here. And I made the decision. So luckily, that's what we did. And, within 2 days, that there were thousands of people that were stuck in airports in South America who couldn't get out.
Wow, so you literally just beat the tsunami wave of closed downs,
Yes.
I guess you'd say.
Yeah. It was close, but and a shame because the fantastic audiences, and it was our first time there as the Martin Barre band, so it was really special.
Oh, I'm sure, and so many folks have had everything turned upside down,
Hmm.
and you've been at your place there in the Plymouth area in the UK since.
Yeah, that's right. But I'm lucky. I had a DVD in the works that had been recorded in America at the beginning of 2019, the end of May 2019. So I was able to do post production, get the cover, and master it, finalize it. So I was able to release that on the website
Right.
um, last year, at the very end of last year, and it just meant that it kept the interest alive. People who obviously can't see a concert live can buy the DVD and see a very recent performance.
And then as for those shows you mentioned, I guess I think it was Peru and Mexico, you said were not
Mm,
able to be hit on
mm,
that tour. They were postponed or canceled. Kind of
mm.
fill us in on what's going to happen with those dates. Plus, I understand from reading about you, and we're going to talk about the record in a moment, the MLB celebrates 50 years of Jethro Tull as in Martin Lancelot Barre. But there was you had plans to do a 50th anniversary celebration of the Aqualung album and a tour this year.
Yeah.
Talk about what you see coming in terms of where your plans are at.
It's coming from two directions. It's coming from behind us because we have a big stack of gigs we have to catch up with, and nothing's cancelled. They're just postponed, but they're piling up, stockpiling. A lot of those shows were from 2019 and 2020. We're going to be with Dee Palmer and Clive Bunker and do the 50 years show, which is all the music over the 50 years of Jethro Tull. So we need to fulfill those obligations. But in the meantime, I was planning to do an Aqualung show in inverted commas, where the first half would just be my favourite music. Could be mine, it could be Jethro Tull, it could be the Beatles, it could be Government Mule, whatever. The second half would be all of the Aqualung album from beginning to end.
Wow.
But yeah, which is great. But of course, that was going to be last year's big new idea. So again, that's still what I'm going to do. So when we go back out on the road, possibly in November, December in Europe, and then America, January, February, March. Got to go back to South America. It's all going to be the Aqualung show, but the first half will have some of my music back in the show.
And you're looking at the end of this year potentially, and you said it very, very hesitantly, which I appreciate.
Well, yeah, I have to because I don't know. That's the plan, but every plan I've had in the last 12 months has gone wrong. So I'd be very foolish to say that it's definitely going to happen, because it's not in my control.
We've heard the same from talking to folks throughout the. I've talked to so many different people. They all say similar things, and they all keep the dates on the books, and then they've all had to reschedule a number of different tours. But it also does come down to that reality check of each time seems to be a new benchmark, it does get blown out for a later date. And in addition to the way you guys have all been hit professionally, which we've sort of been getting into, the other half of this is the huge personal tragedy. And now I know you've been touched from reading. I was doing a little homework on your recent social media posts, I guess you'd call them, and I know you've been touched by at least one or two of the musicians that we've lost recently, not to the virus, but people who have just passed, and we'll talk about them in just a moment. But in terms of any of these musicians, I'm going to name some of the bigger ones who lost their lives to COVID-19. Manu Dibango, John Prine, Adam Schlesinger of Fountains of Wayne, Ellis Marsalis, he's the father of Wynton Branford and Delphio Marsalis, Toots Hibbert of the legendary Toots and the Maytals, classic reggae act. Did you have any connection or any connection or bridge to any of these folks?
Not to those, although I know the names, but one of my best friends passed away very recently, and that was Leslie West.
Mountain,
but of natural causes. And then
Eddie,
a friend of my wife's from the Supremes, Mary
Wilson.
Yeah, Mary Wilson. Just the other day, and we met her 2-3 years ago, and Julie, my wife, and her really hit it off and became friends, mainly over Facebook. But again, it's just it's sad. But I'm 74, and I hate to say that the people in their 70s and my era of music are very vulnerable, not just from COVID, but from
life,
everything else.
Yeah, no question. And Mary was a guest a couple times on the show, including in her dressing room. We just did a nice tribute to her on the air right after her passing, and very, very sad. So Leslie West of Mountain, you mentioned, and how far back do you go with him? Give us a little story of taking us all the way back in time.
Back to 1970, when Mountain were our support band. And I mean, I've got many stories that would take up a lot of time, but I just loved them as people. We just became friends, and their music was incredible. That they were just a very tight, very sociable band, but they had such a connection on stage. And I always tell people that I learned so much about being in a band by watching them play. And every night, that they had this electricity that was, really special. And then over the years, we met occasionally, but stayed friends. And is a was a very nice person, very great sense of humour, and a great musician. But primarily, he was my friend.
When was the last time you saw Leslie?
Oh, ooh. In the Tull days, so 12 years ago, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah,
A ways.
11 years in New York. Mm-hmm.
And then I also saw you gave a mention online to Eddie Van Halen. Any besides just commenting on him as a guitarist, do you have a personal connection with him?
No, I wished I did. I saw him in a hotel lobby once, and I desperately wanted to go and say hello, but I didn't have the nerve. I just thought, I don't know what I'm going to say to him. I don't want to go, Eddie, you're amazing. I love you. So I just stared at him in awe. And then he went up in the elevator, and that was it. So I never met him. And stupid me, I should have just, you never know, I think we're all scared of saying hello to somebody, and they just, you get a negative reaction. I know I wouldn't from him. But I'd only heard since what a good person he was. So I'm sure he would have chatted for half an hour about everything and anything had I have gone forward.
He was probably thinking as the elevator went up, man, that looked a lot like the dude from Jethro Tull.
Yeah, funny. Yeah, funny. He
And
probably thought he was so rude. You won't even come and say hello. Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
and turning to this latest release celebrating 50 years of Jethro Tull. And when you taking a couple steps back, what inspired putting together this 2 CD set, first of all, and then we'll talk about the incredible arrangements and the unusual nature of it.
Well, I just think that in the past, a lot of anniversaries had been overlooked with Tull. That there was sort of a token release of best of Jethro Tull, nothing special, just a repackaging of old stuff. And I just thought, okay, it's a shame, it's a lost opportunity. And I don't mean in a financial way, but I just think these things are historically important in the history of rock music. So here comes number 50, and nothing at all is planned at all. I hear nothing from anybody. I just thought, you know what? I'm going to celebrate it, and I'm going to make it special, because I think it's really an amazing thing to have 50 years career on the road as a musician. So it was a bit self-centered, but I'm saying thank you to all the fans that have given me a career, and they, in every way they have, they've enabled me to play music, and they've been loyal, supportive, and they deserve something. They deserve something that's not just a cheap, $2 repackaging of old tracks with a number 50 on it. So I re-recorded everything, rearranged it. I just made it different and something that would really mark a big occasion.
And do you, when you think about the fans consuming this thing in this modern era of 2021, where are you assuming, or are people mostly streaming this stuff on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever they stream stuff? Are people actually buying a physical object? Explain how people are actually getting the music.
Well, I don't know. The only thing I do know is that people turn up with CDs, so the people of my generation, and maybe a slightly younger generation, still want to buy a CD, take it out of its packaging, read all the bump, and put it on their CD player. There is that generation, and I just liken it to books, where books were going to be history, excuse the pun, because of all the e-readers, and all the bookshops were closing. It was the death of the book.
Right.
I thought that's terrible, but they've come back. People have realised they want to hold a book, they want to put it on their bookshelf, and they might take it down a few years later and flick through it again. So I don't know. I'm not an expert on any of these matters, but it's available to everybody, as it should be, and that includes streaming and whatever method somebody will choose to take to get music. And it's the mechanics of it and the finances of it are another issue. But I just like vinyl packaging, CD packaging.
Did you put this thing out on vinyl too?
No, no, I have done vinyl on my solo records in very small quantities, but that's a big commitment,
Yeah.
and not one I would make. But who knows? The record label might do it. I just like the fact that all these mediums are still attainable.
Yeah, no, it's a strange time because you see, I mean, it's kind of a fashionable thing with a younger group of people now to actually use vinyl, which is cool. And you got people my age who still think it's cool and who never got rid of their records. Granted, I don't play them either, I don't buy them, but I have a hard time getting rid of them. Like I look at them, I think, should I sell these? And I think, I don't want to. So it is a strange sort of spot to find yourself in, and especially with the ease of listening to things online and not having to touch anything. But one of the things you mentioned about this project is the rearrangement of the songs. You really did a lot of work on that end. So talk, and one of the things that I was interested in, there's a female vocalist on there. Share how you guys came together and talk a little bit about like putting together the people who did some of these things. I was just thinking of Locomotive Breath, for instance.
Yeah, Becca Langsford. Well, the two girls on the record are local musicians. And I met them when I was doing a solo record called Back to Steel in a studio nearby. And I just wanted two backing vocals on some of the tracks. And the engineer said, I know a couple of girls, they're really good. And cut a long story short, they came to the studio, they're amazing. We got on really well. I wrote a song for them specially. They did the next solo record, and then they came on the road and toured with us. So there's a very strong personal connection. And my original idea with the 50 Years album was to get guests on it, including Leslie West, funnily enough, just people that I'd met, been influenced by, liked, but had a connection beyond music. And I sort of sent out a few messages, in fact, quite a few messages, and then I got very mixed responses. And some of them, in mentioning no names, and not Leslie, by the way. Leslie was the only one who agreed to do it. No questions asked, but people are, they want to know what the deal is, how much they're going to get. I'm thinking, no, no. It's a friendship. You're doing it because you have some affinity with the band Jethro Tull. It fell flat because of that, and I just thought, I'm going to use the people that are really close to me, and that's Dan Crisp, the band singer, and then my friend John Carter, who I had a band at school with and still sings, and the two girls, and I'm glad I did it because it's a very personal record, and there's no big names on it to sell it. But then I'm not a fan of selling music on that level, but mostly that those guest appearances tend to be a little bit underwhelming. So I'm glad, I didn't go that route.
Yeah, well,
And
that's great insight too in into the real nature of this business, which is very
yeah.
unpleasant at times.
Well, people are suspicious, or they might have managers that get in the way. You never really know, but um, I didn't want to take it any further. At the
Sure.
first hurdle, I was just thinking, yeah, let me rethink this. So it was just a little warning, and there you go.
I love it.
Uh,
That's a great story. That's the first one of that kind that we've had throughout the
right.
throughout the
It's a
series.
warning. Yeah, it's a warning.
But you said something great in there though that I want to catch up on because you don't you said I mean, and you're also at a position now. You've had a successful life, and you're able to have your wife and your home and a lot of good things around you now. You said you don't. I'm paraphrasing, but you said something like, I don't make music like with that intention to be some big business product. You're doing it more
Mm.
for the music. And as I mentioned, I was doing a little studying on your background, and there were some very esoteric and just charming bills that you were part of throughout your life that kind of reflect some of that. I was looking way, way back, and who knows, you probably don't remember this one at all, or maybe you do. Maybe you've got a great story to share. One early gig, it looked like it was 1969, the Aquarius Theater in Los Angeles, on one bill. You would have thought Bill Graham put this thing on, Martin. It had Frank Zappa, Linda Ronstadt, Buddy Miles, and Jethro Tull. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do. In LA, I remember playing with. It's the only time we played with Zappa, and I believe Captain Beefheart were there as well. I think it was over a couple of nights, and we went the first night and saw some bands play. But yeah, we did a complete tour of the States. Jethro Tull, top of the bill. Second on the bill was Fleetwood Mac with Peter Green, and bottom of the bill was Joe Cocker and the Grease Band.
Amazing.
And it was amazing, incredible night of music. But yeah, I've got posters from early gigs, and the Isle of Wight Festival, which was sort of the UK's version of Woodstock.
Right.
The lineup was unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
You were on that same
Unbelievable.
bill with Hendrix and the Doors performing
Yeah, yeah,
at that
yeah.
thing.
It was ridiculous, and it never happened again, and it never will. But at the time, you didn't think, "Wow, we're making history here." It was just a mess of people, pandemonium. But in retrospect, how amazing that those things actually did happen.
What time of day did you play at the Isle of Wight? What was it?
I think we were sort of towards dusk,
Oh,
so
nice.
so it was it dark? I think it was just getting dark. So we were a good spot.
Yeah, a great spot. And did you? And I know, I guess it would be on a prior tour. Hadn't you already opened for Jimi Hendrix prior to doing the Isle of Wight?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, we met Hendrix in January '69, the first tour I did, and the first tour that Jethro Tull did with the stand-up material. And
Talk
yeah,
about meeting
Hendrix.
him.
Oh, it was incredible. I was petrified. But the second I met him, I realised, I didn't need to be. He was just a really nice, normal person, gentle, humble, incredible. It was really really amazing experience.
Where were you guys playing together?
It was Copenhagen, Oslo, Stockholm. Might have been one more, but yeah, it's Scandinavian shows.
Okay. Right. And you
Mhm.
were opening for him and
Definitely, yeah.
and any personal times that you got to just hang because yeah, I mean, I've heard all the same things about what a sweet, wonderful, gentle,
Mm,
kind guy he was. When
yeah.
like talk about actually being like what give us a little story of that shows some example of that.
It's simple, you know. That there's no complex stories, and that I wasn't around, you know, when everybody was partying and going crazy. So I don't have any shocking, gossipy stories. But we met many times over the years. It was always the same, you know, really laid back, really subdued, a very, you know, like going with your friend and having a drink at the local bar, or in England going up the pub and having a pint of beer. There was nothing happened. We just talked, and we were just, you know, friends that bumped into each other occasionally.
Yeah, that's a neat thing, though. And did he comment ever on your playing? Was there any
No,
professional relationship?
no,
Never.
no, never. No, it wasn't. No, nothing like that. No.
Early
Mm.
on, another one that probably, if you're for American fans at least, it's always been a huge like part of your history would be touring with Led Zeppelin in the United
Mhm.
States. When was can you remember like that gig coming about and anything that sticks out of what a remarkable double bill?
Yeah, well, we were very lucky to be on the bill, and how was it arranged? I think Terry Ellis put that deal together. I think he was aware that would be a back door into getting us major recognition in the States, and we probably had a 20-25 minute slot. Um, we probably had about 6 foot depth of stage and 20 foot width to put all our gear. And, you know, we were on and get off quick. And then it was Led Zeppelin and everybody went crazy. But people liked us. And it was a tough gig, you know, not our crowd, but we won them over. Led Zeppelin were, you know, still friends. You know, we still see bump into each other, as we would say, and again, just, you know, really nice, good people, very supportive. Um, but yeah, that tour made us in America, because the next time we went out, we were headlining.
And when you were playing with them, what size were the venues? Were they arenas or
Oh yeah, arenas, big, 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 big.
which members of the band did you have more of a relationship with?
I think John Bonham was the one that was a little aloof, and I believe he didn't like us, didn't like the band. But you know, don't expect everybody to like us. So he and Clive were friends, so they would go off and chat. You know, Clive Bunker, the drummer,
Yeah.
but essentially, yeah, he was a little bit quiet, but the other three amazing, you know, and it was still meet. You know, I saw Robert Plant a few years ago. He came to a little acoustic gig I did near where he lives in the UK, and he's just a really, really nice person.
Wow, he just showed up at one of your acoustic gigs just to see
Yeah,
you.
yeah, that's the way he is.
What a nice
It's the
thing.
way,
That's got to make you feel
yeah,
good.
it is. It did, and it, yeah,
I mean
and
that
and it is a good guy.
that's a great story there. Yeah, I met him a few times and he was really cool. One time I met him, it was at an Elvin Jones show. It was really neat because
Oh,
we were
mm,
both there to see Elvin. So it does kind of like what you're saying. He goes out and sees stuff that he likes, and you know when
yeah,
you
yeah.
mentioned that great show at Isle of Wight, and just quickly
Mm.
before I forget about it, the Doors were also on that gig. Had you ever crossed paths with them before? And at that gig, did you get to cross paths with them?
Mm. No and no. I'm afraid, well, it's a short answer, but they're one of the few bands that I never saw play. So that they must have been on a different night.
Right. Well, that would explain it
Um,
too. Sure.
yeah, I never saw them play, and we played with a lot of bands. No, afraid not.
No, that's
But I
cool.
did meet Bobby Kruger. Is that it? Krug?
Robbie Krieger, their guitarist.
Krieger, sorry, yeah, not Kruger. That's my mistake. Quite recently, and he's a very nice guy. He came to a Martin Barre show. Yeah,
Look
so,
at
but that's
you.
the only time I met him.
You're bringing all the cats. You got the guys from Zeppelin and the Doors coming to see you. You're doing all right, brother.
Yeah, I wish I had a photo of me with everybody I met, but I don't.
Well, I just think it's cool that these guys are still flashing to the current era, that they're, you can say, yeah, I'm out there doing my bit now, and I got Cats from the Doors and Led Zeppelin showing up to see you, and there's another, your bio online has it's really impressive. Yeah, all the whole thing. It's Martin Barre with his years of Jethro Tull work and sharing these amazing stories with us. Outside of the band, it looks like you've worked with Paul McCartney.
Mm-hmm.
Share
Yeah.
the story of first meeting him, or how any kind of connection to him came about.
Well, he's my hero, and as was John Lennon and George Harrison. And I'd met George Harrison because he lived nearby when I lived near London. Only I met John Lennon at a a TV show with Yoko Ono. He was very nice. But this phone call came out of the blue in the middle of Tull doing one of the records. Which one would that be? Can't remember the one. It might have been Rock Island. But yeah, I just got a phone call saying, do you want to do a session? And they wouldn't tell me who it was or who is it. We can't say. I go, really? How am I supposed to say yes or no? So I did it because it was so mysterious, and lo and behold, it was him. And I ended up working with him for a week with some other musicians, and it was incredible. He was absolutely phenomenal musician, very nice person. Sorry, everybody's nice.
Well, that's good.
You have to ask me about somebody who's not nice. It's going to sound really fake. But yeah, he was just sorry, my wife just bought me a drink.
No worries, brother. Take a drink. That's cool. That's a great. Try to remember the first moment, because I love that being the mystery of, like, I wonder who I'm going to be playing with. Tell us the moment when you first figured out it was actually McCartney.
It was quite scary, and the first session I did, he wasn't there, but we did a track, "Love Me Do" and "P.S. I Love You." We combined them and did a sort of funk version of it, and in fact, did we know by then? It was kept very quiet who it was for. I don't think we knew who it was for at that point. It's just a bunch of guys in the studio, and they wanted us to do a Buddy Holly song and put something together. So the Buddy Holly song we did, and then we did this combination of the two songs. And at the end of it, the producer said, "Well, I want to tell you who it's for. It's for Paul McCartney. He's looking for bands to record with." And going, wow. So off we go. And then, a few weeks later, I get another phone call. "Yeah, Paul wants you to come down to East Sussex and record with him." I was petrified. But it was, it's the sort of thing that happens to you once in a lifetime. And yeah, what can I say?
Well, it's incredible. What you can say is, so you get the call, and what do you go by yourself? Like, talk about showing up that first moment and where it was. Like, paint the picture.
Yeah, well, I'm on my own. I mean, I knew the other guys in the band because it was the same bunch of people, and we didn't know each other very well. We just met for the first time, but at least we sort of knew each other from that one time. Yeah, it was strange because I didn't, essentially we were really in at the deep end. And, we all set up our gear in this amazing studio. And then he walks in and it's like, yeah, it's, I think anybody in that situation, unless they had a huge amount of confidence and ego, that they would be fairly dumbstruck. But it was an incredible week, and he was amazing. He sang all the time, and it was good fun, good music, and I think some of those tracks, I know some of those tracks have now been released on quite recently.
What was your favorite moment of the week there with him?
Um, there's a lot of humorous things. I
Shit,
can't.
shit.
We had to sign non-disclosure statements and agreements quite a few times. So lots of it will remain in my brain, not to be spoken of. But nothing weird. But there were some funny moments. But I can't say. But I think probably a high point was, we'd done a few takes of the song, and we just sort of, having a cup of tea, and he'd just jump on the piano, not literally, and go, good golly, Miss Molly. We're going, oh, wow, okay, join in. And it's not every day you play Good Golly, Miss Molly with Paul McCartney.
Wow, he would just for fun. We were saying while you
Yeah,
guys are
for fun.
relaxing.
Yeah. No, we all, yeah, we had a jam.
Unbelievable. That gets you. And then not only does he play, he's not just playing it for you. He's inviting you to get to play it along with him.
Yeah, he just wants to play and sing. It's it's inspiring that somebody of his stature
Right.
just wants to sing and play, and now we know that's what he wants to do because he is doing it again and again. Yeah, it was wonderful. It's a high point, probably the high point of everything I've ever done. Not musically, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but as an occasion, musically, things I've done that I'm really proud of. Sometimes with people who nobody would have heard of, but that's more of a personal.
Sure. Oh, no question. And as a musician in a major rock band to have that experience with that guy, there's no question that would be a really important one. But you said something interesting there about, you called that one of these great experiences in your life. As I looked at your history, there was a moment for Tull. People may not realize Tull was like a gigantic force when they toured in the U.S. And from reading about you these are just highlights of to demonstrate what I'm talking about. In '75, Tull played 5 nights at the L.A. Forum.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In
Mm.
'78, Tull did 5 nights at Madison Square
Oh
Garden
no, yeah, no.
with
Well, I
you.
mean, we were a big band, but we sort of went under the problem with Tull is we were huge, and then we messed with it. At the point where it works, we're on a roll. We're a big, major band, one of the top 10 touring bands in the world. We started messing with what we had. The brand got diluted, and that was the end. That was the beginning of the end.
That
So
would
and it's an old expression. If it ain't broke, it doesn't need fixing. And hallelujah.
there's so
I
much
can
in
tell
that.
you how true that is.
No doubt.
Now it doesn't exist. So there you go.
No.
There's a lesson.
Big lessons. No, I hear what you're saying, and you can apply that to so many things in your life. Really, it's way beyond music. One can take what you're saying and kind of extrapolate a lot of lessons. Those gigs I mentioned, because they were literally sort of at the peak of your career. Are there any fun memories when I mentioned it? For example, when I said Madison Square Garden, does anything come to your mind like, oh, I remember such and such there, or
Well, I could be a little bit contrary and just say some of my fondest memories are at the other end of the scale, where I did a Martin Barre band gig in a tiny little coastal town in England, Portland, like a blues club. It might be 500 people on a normal night, and there was a storm of all storms, like hurricane storm outside, and we got there, we set up the gear. Of course, the people couldn't get to the gig because the weather got worse and worse. We were pretty well trapped in this club, so we had 40 people, but 40 people made that gig one of the best I've ever done. So there's another life lesson. You don't need 25,000 people to have a good time.
That's a great point. And you have so many other things to be grateful for: your health, your wife. I mean, there's so many things that dwarf the gigs. You put it in a great way there.
Yeah,
And plus,
yeah.
as you also pointed out, here you are. You can do little acoustic gigs, and you got guys from the Doors and Led Zeppelin showing up to see you. So what does that tell you?
Well, I'm in a nice place, or I was, because my band that we headlined our first festival a couple of years ago in Europe, and that's a big deal. To headline a festival is a big deal for me. For Jethro Tull, it wouldn't have been, but for me it was, and it's a real step on a career ladder, which I had to start again. I'm being a solo artist,
Right.
um, but the second time round, that these steps mean a lot more than they did the first time, because we're on a roll. It snowballed. As you say, 5 nights at Madison Square Gardens. Oh yeah, where are we after that? We didn't take it for granted, but we did.
Right.
We shunned the rock star side of it, so we sort of played it down and made sure that every gig was a gig. No one gig was any more special than another one, which is a good way of approaching it. But so to me, doing those 5 nights wasn't like amazing, incredible. We've done 5 nights. It was just we did another 5 gigs, and they had to be good musically, whatever. But now every little step in my career, my new career, is really important to me. I savor each moment. I understand how much it means and how hard you have to work for each of those stages.
That's a great way of looking at it. And it is easy when you have good things happening to, not like you said, not necessarily take it for granted, but you do, because you don't realize what you got
Yeah,
going
I
on.
don't take it for granted in a derogatory way.
No, I totally know
I,
what you mean.
I think we just shook off that rock star life, and it was all about the music, and so we never got that big ego trip that some guys got. Um, yeah, we had a great work ethic, and that's carried forward into what I do, and that's the most important thing to me.
I,
My music isn't commercial. I do what I love doing, and I don't really think it's going to. Um, I'm not going to be playing in front of millions of people, but I just want to be happy and play great music and play with a great bunch of guys and enjoy life. And I love an audience of 100. I love an audience of 1,000, 10,000. I'm happy in any situation. They're all different.
that's a great way of. I saw you in so many different capacities, dude. I saw you in first time was in '87 Tower Theater. Don Airy was in the band. It was on the Crest
Oh
of a
yeah, yeah,
Knave tour, I guess it
yeah,
was.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you guys were doing like a Westwood one or something. Somehow it was professionally recorded, and
Oh,
it's circulating out there online now. It was like November of '87, and then
yeah.
that was when you had Fairport opening, and
Oh
of
yeah,
course Dave
yeah.
Pegg was
Nice.
in the band, and then you
Right.
did the spring after that. Saw you at Merriweather Post. Saw you at the Mann
Oh yeah,
Music
yeah, yeah.
Center. And then a bunch of the '89. I guess Rock Island was that the one that was '89. There was a bunch of shows at
Maybe.
Providence, Maine, Worcester. I saw you about 8, 10,
Oh,
12 times.
you're a big fan. I've loved every second of it, and I still do, and I still will. And that I've never not wanted to go out on stage. I'm sure it happens with a lot of musicians. You just have that love of what you do, and love of music, and love of playing. I love guitars.
You're
They're my they're my third arm.
No, I know that, and in reading a lot about you for this, I could see that. And the first one I forgot to mention. The first one was Under Wraps. Actually, that was one of my very first shows.
Yeah, yeah, it was a great show.
Philadelphia Spectrum. You had all these visuals going on. I remember big
Oh
screened
yeah,
stuff, and when you
yeah.
think of all these, I got you in a place where we kind of reminisced for a moment about some tours, and hopefully you smiled. Any memorable when you think of like the wild, like I mentioned Bill Graham, and in the beginning I mentioned some of those odd, not odd, but really nice eclectic mixes when you guys would be on with other people that maybe would raise an eyebrow in a cool way, like, having Linda Ronstadt and Frank Zappa on the same bill. But similarly, when you think of the breadth of your career, the full thing, are there unusual packages that you laugh at in a good way, that you think back and think, what an unusual mix for folks?
Yeah, well, I personally think you can mix and match anything, and we're entertainers at the end of the day, whether you're avant-garde jazz, um, gypsy jazz, classical, bluegrass, folk rock. We're just entertaining an audience, and in theory. You're able to do it, you in your own way, and the fact that everybody's not exactly the same genre shouldn't matter the slightest, because good music entertains. So I don't see these boundaries at all. I mean, some of them didn't work in the early days. We did Newport Jazz on the Road, and the jazz musicians didn't like the rock musicians. But I think that they were just being a little bit aloof, and these barriers got broken down over the years, and now you respect everything. I respect bad music. I respect pop music. I might not like it, but it entertains people, and it deserves to be there because of that. It's qualifies.
Well, these are just some great stories we've been getting today. It's Martin Barre celebrating 50 years of Jethro Tull, new release, longtime guitarist for Jethro Tull. Huge treat to have you on the show today, and hope you had fun doing this.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, you're very informed, and a very good and easy person to do an interview with. So yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thanks, Dave.
Appreciate it, brother.
Okay, take care.
Aloha.
And you. Bye.